board. So anybody that misses it, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's Arjun. And we're going to have
3, 4.
There's Mila again.
7, 8.
I'm sure people are going to pop in as I start reading. Here we go. Screen share. There we are. Some crazy stuff that happens today. James and the Giant Peach, chapter 27. James Henry Trotter and his companions. Wait a second, got to see. There we go. Got to get 2 more in. Okay, sorry about that. Trying to let people in at the same time. No, it's not there. There we go. Yay. James Henry Trotter and his companions crouched close together on top of the peach as the night began closing in around them. Clouds like mountains towered high above their heads on all sides, mysterious, menacing, overwhelming. Gradually, it grew darker and darker, and then a pale 3/4 moon came up over the tops of the clouds and cast an eerie light over the whole scene. The giant peach swayed gently from side to side as it floated along, and the hundreds of silky white strings going upward from its stem were beautiful in the moonlight. So also was the great flock of seagulls overhead. There was not a sound anywhere. Traveling upon the peach was not in the least like traveling in an airplane. The airplane comes clattering and roaring through the sky, and whatever might be lurking secretly up there in the great cloud mountains goes running for cover at its approach. That is why people who travel in airplanes never see anything. But the peach, ah yes, the peach. The peach was soft, stealthy traveler, making no noise at all as it floated along. And several times during the long, silent ride high up over the middle of the ocean in the moonlight, James and his friends saw things that no one had ever seen before. Once, as they drifted silently past a massive white cloud, they saw on the top of it a group of strange, tall, wispy-looking things that were about twice the height of ordinary men. They were not easy to see at first because they were almost as white as the cloud itself. But as the peach sailed closer, it became obvious that these things were actually living creatures. Tall, wispy, wraith-like, shadowy white creatures who looked as though they were made out of a mixture of cotton wool and candy floss and thin white hairs. Ooh, I don't like this at all. Shh, don't let them hear you. They must be cloud men. Cloud men, they murmured, huddling closer together for comfort. Oh dear, oh dear. I'm glad I'm blind and can't see them, or I would probably scream. I hope they don't turn around and see us. Do you think they would eat us?
They would eat you. They would cut you up like a salami and eat you in thin slices.
The poor earthworm began to quiver all over with fright. But what are they doing? I don't know. Let's watch and see. The cloud men were all standing in a group, and they were doing something peculiar with their hands. First, they would reach out, all of them at once, and grab handfuls of cloud. Then they would roll these handfuls of cloud in their fingers until they turned into what looked like large white marbles. Then they would toss the marbles to one side and quickly grab more bits of cloud and start over again. It was all very silent and mysterious. The pile of marbles beside them kept growing larger and larger. Soon there was a truckload of them at least.
They must be absolutely mad. There's nothing to be afraid of here.
Be quiet, you pest. We shall be eaten if they see us. But the cloud men were much too busy with what they were doing to have noticed the great peach floating silently up behind them. Then the watchers on the peach saw one of the cloud men raising his long, wispy arms above his head, and they heard him shout,
"All right, boys, that's enough. Get the shovels."
And all the other cloud men immediately let out a strange, high-pitched whoop of joy and started jumping up and down and waving their arms in the air. Then they picked up enormous shovels and rushed over to the pile of marbles and began shoveling them as fast as they could over the side of the cloud into space.
Down they go, hail and snow, freezes and sneezes and noses will blow.
It's hailstones. They've been making hailstones, and now they're showering them into the people in the world below.
Hailstones? That's ridiculous. This is the summertime. You don't have hailstones in summertime.
They're practicing for the winter.
I don't believe it,
shouted the centipede, raising his voice. Shh, James said softly.
For heaven's sake, centipede, don't make so much noise.
The centipede roared with laughter. These imbeciles couldn't hear anything. They're deaf as doorknobs. You watch. And before anyone could stop him, he had cupped his front feet to his mouth and was yelling at the cloud men as loud as he could. Idiots, nincompoops, half-wits, blunderheads, asses, what on earth do you think you're doing over there? The effect was immediate. The cloud men jumped around as if they'd been stung by wasps. And when they saw the great golden peach floating past them, not 50 yards away in the sky, they gave a yelp of surprise and dropped their shovels to the ground. And where they stood with the moonlight streaming down all over them, absolutely motionless, like a group of tall, white, hairy statues, staring and staring at the gigantic fruit as it went sailing by. The passengers on the peach, all except the centipede, sat frozen with terror, looking back at the cloud men and wondering what was going to happen next. "No, you've done it, you loathsome pest," whispered the earthworm to the centipede. "I'm not afraid of them," shouted the centipede. And to show everybody once again that he wasn't, he stood up to his full height and started dancing about and making insulting signs at the cloud men with all 42 of his legs. Oh, gotta let Wyatt in. Hold on. This evidently infuriated the cloudmen beyond belief. All at once, they spun around and grabbed great handfuls of hailstones and rushed to the edge of the cloud and started throwing them at the peach, shrieking with fury all the time. "Look out! Quick, lie down! Lie flat on the deck!" It was lucky they did. A large hailstone can hurt you as much as a rock or a lump of lead if it's thrown hard enough. And my goodness, how these cloudmen could throw. The hailstones came whizzing through the air like bullets from a machine gun. And James could hear them smashing against the sides of the peach and burying themselves in the peach flesh with horrible squelching noises. Plop, 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 ping, ping, ping. And they bounced off the poor ladybug's shell because she couldn't lie as flat as the others. And then crack, as one of them hit the centipede right on the nose. And crack, again as another one hit him somewhere else. Ow! Ow! Stop! 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 But the cloudman had no intention of stopping. James could see them rushing about on the cloud like a lot of huge hairy ghosts, picking up hailstones from the pile, dashing to the edge of the cloud, hurling the hailstones at the peach, dashing back to get some more, and then when the pile of stones was all gone, they simply grabbed handfuls of cloud and made as many more as they wanted, and much bigger ones now, some of them as large as cannonballs. Quickly, down the tunnel, or we'll be all wiped out. There was a rush for the tunnel entrance, and half a minute later, everybody was safely downstairs inside the stone of the peach, trembling with fright and listening to the noise of the hailstone as they came crashing against the side of the peach. "I'm a wreck. I am wounded all over." "It serves you right." "Would somebody kindly look and see if my shell is cracked?" "Give us some light." "I can't. They've broken my bulb." "Then put in another one." "Be quiet a moment. Listen, I do believe they're not hitting us anymore." They all stopped talking and listened. Yes, the noise had ceased. The hailstones were no longer smashing against the peach. "We've left them behind. The seagulls must have pulled us away out of danger. Hooray, let's go up and see." Cautiously, with James going first, they all climbed back up the tunnel. James poked his head out and looked around. "It's all clear. I can't see them anywhere." Chapter 28. One by one, the travelers came out again onto the top of the peach and gazed carefully around. The moon was still shining as brightly as ever, and there were still plenty of huge shimmering cloud mountains on all sides, but there were no cloudmen in sight now. "The peach is leaking," shouted the old green grasshopper, peering over the side. "It's full of holes, and the juice is dripping out everywhere." "That does it. If the peach is leaking, then we shall surely sink." "Don't be an ass. We're not in the water now." "Oh, look, over there." Everybody swung around to look. In the distance and directly ahead of them, they now saw a most extraordinary sight. It was a kind of arch, a colossal Kirby-shaped thing that reached up high into the sky and came down again at both ends. The ends were resting upon a huge flat cloud that was as big as a desert. "Now, what in the world is that?" "It's a bridge. It's an enormous hoop cut in half. It's a giant horseshoe standing upside down. Stop me if I'm wrong," murmured the centipede, going white in the face. "But might those not be cloudmen climbing all over it?" There was a dreadful silence. The peach floated closer and closer. "They are cloudmen. There are thousands of them. Thousands, millions." "I don't want to hear about it. I'd rather be on the end of a fish hook and use as bait than come up against those terrible creatures again." "I'd rather be fried than eaten by Mexican," wailed the old green grasshopper. "Please quiet, it's our only hope." They crouched very still on top of the peach, staring at the cloudmen. The whole surface of the cloud was literally swarming with them, and there were hundreds more above, climbing about on that monstrous, crazy arch. But what is that thing? And what are they doing to it?
I don't care what they're doing to it. I'm not staying up here. Goodbye.
He scuttled over to the tunnel entrance, but the rest of them were too frightened or too hypnotized by the whole affair to make a move. Do you know what? What? That enormous arch? They seem to be painting it. They've got pots of paint and big brushes. You look. And he was quite right. The travelers were close enough now to see that this was exactly what the Cloudmen were doing. They all had huge paintbrushes in their hands and were splashing the paint onto the great curvy arch in a frenzy of speed, so fast, in fact, that in a few minutes the whole of the arch became covered with the most glorious colors: reds, blues, greens, yellows, and purples. It's a rainbow. They're making a rainbow. Oh, isn't it beautiful? Just look at those colors. Centipede, you must come up and see this. They were so enthralled by the beauty and brilliance of the rainbow that they forgot to keep their voices low any longer. The centipede poked his head cautiously out of the tunnel entrance.
Well. I've always wondered how they made those things. But why all the ropes? What are they doing with those ropes?
Good heavens, they're pushing it off the cloud. There it goes. They're lowering it down to the earth with ropes.
I'll tell you something else. If I'm not greatly mistaken, we ourselves are going to bump right into it.
Bless my soul, he's right. The rainbow is now dangling in the air below the cloud. The peach was also just below the cloud, and it was heading directly toward the rainbow, traveling rather fast. We are lost, Miss Spider cried, wringing her feet again. The end has come. I can't stand it. Tell me what's happening. We're going to miss it. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Yes. Oh, my heavens. Hold on, everybody. James called out, and suddenly there was a tremendous thud as the peach went crashing into the top part of the rainbow. This was followed by an awful splintering noise as the enormous rainbow snapped right across the middle and became two separate pieces. The next thing that happened was extremely unfortunate. The ropes that the Cloudmen had been using for lowering the rainbow got tangled up with the silk strings that went up from the peach to the seagulls. The peach was trapped. Panic and pandemonium broke out among the travelers, and James Henry Trotter, glancing up quickly, saw the faces of the 1,000 furious Cloudmen peering down at him over the edge of the cloud. The faces had almost no shape at all because of the long white hairs that covered them. There were no noses, no mouths, no ears, no chins. Only the eyes were visible in each face, two small black eyes glinting malevolently through the hairs. Then came the most frightening thing of all. One Cloudman, a huge, hairy creature who must have been 14 feet tall at least, suddenly stood up and made a tremendous leap off the side of the cloud, trying to get to one of the silk screens above the peach. James and his friends saw him go flying through the air above them, his arms outstretched in front of him, reaching for the nearest string, and they saw him grab it and climb to it with his hands and legs, and then very, very slowly, hand over hand, he began to come down the string. Mercy, help, save us, cried the ladybug. He's coming down to eat us. Jump overboard.
Then eat the earthworm first. It's no good eating me. I'm full of bones like a kipper.
Centipede, quickly, bite through that string, the one he's coming down on. The centipede rushed over to the stem of the peach and took the silk screen in his teeth and bit through it with one snap of his jaws. Immediately far above them, the single seagull was seen to come away from the rest of the flock and go flying off with a long string trailing from its neck. And clinging desperately to the end of the string, shouting and cursing with fury, was the huge, hairy Cloudman. Up and up he went, swinging across the moonlit sky, and James Henry Trotter, watching him with delight, said, My goodness, he must weigh almost nothing at all for one seagull to be able to pull him like that. He must be all hair and air. The rest of the Cloudmen were so flabbergasted at seeing one of their company being carried away in this manner that they let go of the ropes they were holding, and then, of course, down went the rainbow, both halves of it together, tumbling towards the earth below. This freed the peach, which at once began sailing away from that terrible cloud. But the travelers were not in the clear yet. The infuriated Cloudmen jumped up and ran after them along the cloud, pelting them mercilessly with all sorts of hard and horrible objects. Empty paint buckets, paintbrushes, step ladders, stools, saucepans, frying pans, rotten eggs, dead rats, bottles of hair oil, anything these brutes could lay their hands on came raining down upon the peach. One Cloudman, taking very careful aim, tipped a gallon of thick purple paint over the edge of the cloud right onto the centipede himself. The centipede screamed with anger.
My legs, they're all sticking together. I can't walk and my eyelids won't open. I can't see and my boots are ruined.
But for the moment, everyone was far too busy dodging the things that the Cloudmen were throwing to pay any attention to the centipede.
The purple's growing. It's growing hard. I can't move my legs. I can't move anything.
You can still move your mouth, and that is a great pity.
James, please help me. What about the big sleeping up anything?
Chapter 29. It seemed like a long time before the seagulls were able to pull the peach away from that horrible rainbow cloud, but they managed it at last, and then everybody gathered around the wretched centipede and began arguing about the best way to get the paint off his body. He really did look a sight. He was purple all over, and now that the paint was beginning to dry and harden, he was forced to sit very stiff and upright, as though he were encased in cement, and all 42 of his legs were sticking out straight in front of him like rods. He tried to say something, but his lips wouldn't move. All he could do now was to make gurgling noises in his throat. The old green grasshopper reached out and touched him carefully on the stomach. But how could it possibly have dried so quickly? Oh, it's rainbow paint. Rainbow paint dries very quick and very hard. I detest paint, Miss Spider announced. It frightens me. It reminds me of Aunt Spiker. Oh, the late Aunt Spiker, I mean. Because the last time she painted her kitchen ceiling, my poor darling grandmother stepped into it by mistake when it was still wet, and there she stuck. And all through the night we could hear her calling to us, saying, "Help, help, help." And it was heartbreaking to listen to her. But what could we do? Not a thing until the next day when the paint had dried. And then, of course, we all rushed over to her and calmed her down and gave her some food. Believe it or not, she lived for 6 months like that, upside down in the ceiling with her legs stuck permanently to the paint. She really did. We fed her every day. We brought her fresh flies straight from the web. But then on the 26th of April last, Aunt Sponge, the late Aunt Sponge, I mean, happened to glance up at the ceiling and she spotted her.
A spider!
She cried.
A disgusting spider! Quick, fetch me the mop with the long handle.
And then, oh, it was so awful. I can't bear to think of it. Miss Spider wiped away a tear and looked sadly at the centipede. You poor thing. I do feel sorry for you.
It will never come off, the earthworm said brightly. Our centipede will never move again. He will turn into a statue, and we shall be able to put him in the middle of the lawn with a bird bath on top of his head.
We could try peeling him like a banana, the old green grasshopper suggested. Or rubbing him with sandpaper.
No, if he stuck out his tongue,
the earthworm said, smiling a little for perhaps the first time in his life.
if he could stick it out really far, then we could catch hold of it and we could start pulling. And then if we pulled hard enough, we could turn him inside out and he'd have new skin.
There was a pause while the others considered this interesting proposal. I think that the best thing to do, then he stopped. What was that? He asked quickly. I heard a voice. I heard someone shouting. The end of chapter 29. That's some good stuff there. Let's go right to, I'm going to stop recording. No, I'm going to keep the recording going. We're going to go to our daily assignment, and then we'll ask you if you have things to share or questions to ask, because it is Monday, and maybe something very exciting happened to you. Ryan, you look a little shocked there. You okay? All right. Everybody still with me? Just nod. We're in the last week of our 3-week unit, so please get all your missing work in if you have any. Most of you are doing quite well with getting all your work done every day. What are cloud men? What types of imaginary beings have you created? When I used to ride around with my parents in the car, I would imagine in my mind that I was a giant creature running alongside the car, and any buildings I didn't like, I would smash with my hand, and it would go. I would slash through the buildings downtown. That was my imagination. I bet you've imagined imaginary beings. Do you think Mr. Centipede got what he deserved for being so rude? He has a big mouth, isn't he? Constantly rude, but very funny. And James, he's become amazingly brave. Why do you think he's become so brave? It's amazing. All the poetry words there for you. Vocabulary test on those will be on Friday. The editing today is really cool because it's about the Crazy Horse Monument. And I found a little really cool video on the Crazy Horse Monument. So look at that first. It's really awesome. And then do your editing of how that was created. It's gigantic. Those are people, by the way, right there. Verb tenses, we're going to be placing the subject and predicate and time periods. For example, if you want somebody to be jumping, he jumps. He is jumping. He will jump. He has jumped. He is going to jump. He could have been jumping. He will have been jumping. And there's even more. So go to the slide share, look at all the time verb tenses, and then we will be reviewing this page tomorrow. Long ago in faraway ancient Rome, I will be assigning you a day to share part of your book report starting tomorrow. So look for your time in your private channel, and I will give you your time for that. This week we'll be wrapping up poetry. In other words, you have to have a little poetry portfolio, 5 specific poems you have created, and make sure you have a variety. Explain what type of poem each one is. Explain what poetic elements you used in the poems. What poetic elements, Mr. Bagby? These poetic elements, Mr. Bagby. Choose a way to express one of your poems artistically. Maybe you want to put a little music to them and share it to us. Maybe you want to illustrate your poem. Maybe you want to make a little video. It's up to you. But just choose one poem to express artistically. We're going to take a look at rebus word puzzles in a minute, so you know what these are. They're awesome. There are about 100 of them. If you don't know what a rebus puzzle is, they're pretty cool. I've got a problem with this. I think somebody said out there that they have the answer. I could not find the laboratory answers. That's my fault. So if one of you has that, I think one of you said that they did have it. I think Damien did. Damien, I'll let you share that with me in a minute. Again, look for your time for your ancient Rome book report. Oh, by the way, I posted a video for geography on what the Clearwater Beach looks like during quarantine. Because it's opening up today, it'll never look like this again, probably in our lifetimes. It is empty and it's clean. It's amazing. So look at that video. You've never seen Clearwater Beach like this in your life. Certainly not in my life. Family fun, one of your memories of a ritual. My mom we actually had a dinner bell. And when she was finished fixing dinner, she would say, dinner's ready, ring the bell. And whoever was closest would be able to ring the bell. Of course, that led to getting into fights, as you can imagine, as we all 3 kids ran for the bell to ring it. So then she assigned it so that if you washed the dishes that day, you also were able to ring the dinner bell, which was a fair trade in our eyes. Bayshore Boulevard is the world's longest continual sidewalk. That's right across Tampa Bay, right over in Hillsborough County. Really cool pictures. And let's just look at the rebus thing real quick. See if this comes up. Okay. Boom. Okay, could you see the rebus puzzles? Nod up and down if you can. Are the rebus puzzles showing? Okay, I'm going to stop this share. And then I'm going to go to rebus puzzle share if I can find it. No. Okay. No. Give me a second here. I'm sure it's there somewhere, but maybe it's not. Oh, well, I don't see it. So we're going to stop that, and I'm going to unmute you all. Then I'm going to mute you again, and then I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself, okay? So if you have something to share, unmute yourself and share.
I would like to share my
Peter.
Share your what?
I would like to share my book report for the ancient Rome.
Right, that's going to start tomorrow. I'm going to assign everybody a day to share a part of your book report on that awesome book. I also put a if you had trouble getting into Mackin VIA to get that book, there is now a Word document that has the entire book in it that's posted on your either general or announcements page. Anybody else have something to share?
Wait, I could I share the laboratory, find the missing objects?
Yeah, could you send that to me so I can post it for everybody?
Yeah,
Great, thank you very much.
I'll go ahead and do it right now.
Let's see. We've got Mila here, Anderson, Arjun, Chloe, Fabian, Max, Ryan, Swati, Uptown Funky. Okay, Upton. You are funky, but I need your real name. Viga, anybody else have something to share? Or, you know,
Me.
remember Fluffy
me.
McClufferson? Who?
Mila.
Okay, Mila, go ahead.
So I know I'm about to say something that really doesn't have to do anything with school, but I started yelling at my cat because she started buying paper towels.
You yelled at who?
My cat Potato.
Yeah.
My mom named our cat Potato. Well, 1 out of 8.
And what did she do?
The balloon fell.
He
Let me grab.
he did something with paper towels?
Yeah, he ripped them up, I think. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll find it.
Let me. I tell you what this is her phone. Let me look.